Hey everybody, welcome back to another session in our new timer series for RaceDay products. So I'm here with Chris McDonald on the back end. We're going to be going through today's session, which is focused in on an introduction to RaceDay scoring. So one point of business before we get started, we do have, or I put up a handout with a PDF and a PowerPoint version of this presentation in the handout section of GoToWebinar. That'll be helpful for you today because I extensively used links in the presentation out to help documentation that we have on RaceDay scoring, because so many of the features are pretty complicated and have a lot of in-depth settings that you can control. We can't get through all of it in a 1-hour session, but I did want to link over to all those resources if you need to dig into something further. So go ahead and download those handouts if you want to follow along on your end, or if you want to follow the links through to the different sources, resources. Okay, so let's get started. Just as a background for this session again, it is a new timer training session. What we're trying to do is help out established timers hire new timers. So today we're going to be basically trying to put together some content guides for RaceDay scoring. So if you have timers who are looking to get started with RaceDay scoring, this session may be helpful to give them a general overview of the different parts of RaceDay scoring, the building blocks of RaceDay scoring, so they can kind of understand the concepts and then dig into them further using the linked out resources. So what we really are not intending this for is like existing and experienced timers. We're also not trying to just teach people how to be a timer necessarily. That's your job as a timer organization. And just as a background, as you know, RunSignup staff is a resource for timers to help get started with our RaceDay products. But general technology questions like computer support and hardware specific questions, like if you're a MyLapse timer, you need to have those answered by other resources like a MyLapse support rep. So we are great at helping you with your questions on using RaceDay products themselves, and not always the networking and MyLapse hardware specific type of questions. Can't necessarily always help you there, unfortunately. So that reminds you to always work on creating your support network. We're going to be reinforcing this over and over again because it's super important for new timers to understand who to go to if you have questions. So make sure you have a hardware provider contact at MyLapse or iPico or whoever, RFID, Race Result. You need to have someone to go to if something is not working the way you expect it to. We may be able to help you to an extent, but we're not going to be the best at it, and we might give you the wrong information. So it's really best to have a good support contact from your hardware providers who actually is employed by them. Computer support. This is really important. You have to have someone in your timing organization who's really proficient at working with computers, knows how to set up a network, knows how to make sure that the computers are running properly, understands how to do file management and all that sort of stuff, so that any of those questions can have a point person. Support network of timing friends. Make sure that you set up or be a part of some kind of group of other timers in the area to bounce ideas off of, borrow or rent equipment. A lot of timers are super friendly, so find a support network of other timers. I know the Facebook group Timers Talk is fantastic for this. There's a really great community there who are super helpful and all good folks. And then obviously for RunSignup RaceDay products, it's actually you can contact info@runsignup.com in general for like the RaceDay results on RunSignup, the check-in app, registration, and GiveSignup. For RaceDay scoring, the contact is raceday@runsignup.com. For Race Director, it's support@theracedirector.com. For RaceJoy, it's info@racejoy.com. So we kind of have these product-specific buckets. But if you don't know who to send an email to, just send it to info@RunSignup, and they'll triage it over to the right bucket. All right, so we are on session 3 of this, I guess, 4 or 5 week session. I don't know if there's a specific 5th week ready to go yet, but next week is the official RaceDay scoring certification class. So today what we're going to do is kind of break out parts of that the certification class that we normally do, that is an overview of the different features that we're setting up, and I'm going to piecemeal it. So we're going to do more of an overview today, and then next week we're going to dive right into the setup, assuming that you have digested everything from this session. So if you know anyone who's just come into the certification and not coming to today's session, make sure that they watch this video. We'll be sharing it out upon completion. Okay, so our agenda today, a few different points we're going to be going through in RaceDay scoring. So if you're following along on your end, all of these pink words are all links to our help documentation and how to do all of these specific things. So if you want more info as we go, feel free to click these links and follow out to the help guides. And in each of the slides, I also have links to them. So we're going to learn how to manage races, how to view and add participants, what streams and locations are, what are scored events and segments, what are age groups and top finishers, and what are reports. So I'm not going to be going into the app and actually showing you how to do each and every single thing because I only have an hour and I could spend days on this. So what we'll do is we'll give you an overview of where to find the stuff and where to find the affiliated documentation to help guide you further in it. So let's get started. Managing races with RaceDay scoring. First off, what is a race? A race in RaceDay scoring in terms is a collection of related competitions in the same year that we call events that may or may not take place in the same day, but usually are on the same day or weekend. So on the right, it's just basics, basic idea of a race and event structure is 2021 Run for Hope is the race, and there's a 10K run and a 5K run. Those are both events within a race. So when we talk about race and event, these are the things that we're talking about. Race being the group of different competitions you have, the different distance events. So usually the events are like 5K, 10K, 15K, and so on. So if you are familiar with RunSignup registration, it's the same structure for that. So you have a big event or big race, and multiple events within it. Races can have one or many events that are generally different race distances, but do not have to be. Essentially, you want to make sure that you have all of the groupings of participants who need to be scored together in a scored event. So usually it's like a 5K run, 10K run. So let's talk about how you create races in RaceDay scoring. There's a few different options. The big two are either you import down from RunSignup or you create it manually. So if you are importing from RunSignup, the assumption is that this race already is on RunSignup for registration, and RaceDay scoring will be able to see that and import it down. So there's no need to download participant lists and import it into RaceDay scoring like you've done in the past, exporting to a CSV and importing it direct that way. Participant data will appear magically when the race is connected. Future changes made on RunSignup will show in RaceDay scoring and vice versa. Any updates made in RaceDay scoring go to RunSignup. So I have these links here which show you exactly what you need to do to get started with this. You just go into your race list, you click import a race already on RunSignup, you find the race that you need, you select it, and you are good to go. So that's importing from RunSignup. And the other option is creating a race manually. Obviously, if you're not using RunSignup, you're not going to be able to import it from RunSignup. So this function is to be used if you have a race that was not using RunSignup for registration, or if you're doing an offline race or something else. But basically, you can go ahead and create manually if you need to. You do have the ability when creating a race manually to publish it to RunSignup. So as you are creating a new race, you have this checkbox here to say, I want to publish this race to RunSignup. Okay, so you see here on the left, I have my importing a race from RunSignup and creating a new race, my two big options. So one of the nice things about creating a new race, if it's not using RunSignup and you decide to publish to RunSignup, you can use all of the results features from RunSignup for free. So that's all available to you. You don't have to use RunSignup for registration necessarily. You can go ahead and create the race on RunSignup that's just being used for their results. And it would just host their results page. You can customize it if you want. You don't have to. It's just an easy way to create a race that's only going to be used for results posting. All right, let's talk about participants. So in race day scoring, after you load up a race, whether you've done it manually, create it manually or imported from RunSignup, you would go to this little people on the left here. You generally will walk down the list of icons on the left, and you'll be able to see the participants in the race. You can import participants in one of two ways, either from a spreadsheet, and I've linked again out to how to do that. You can go ahead and just click the link, import, map all your columns, and do all this stuff. So you can walk through this guide if you need to learn how to do that, or from RunSignup. If you've imported the race from RunSignup, or if you've published your race, your manually created race to RunSignup, any adds or updates made to participants there will automatically show in race day scoring. And just a note, if you have connected your race to RunSignup, you've imported it from RunSignup or you published it, you can always still import a CSV of additions into race day scoring. There's no issues with that. Obviously, if you're at a race site and you don't have great internet connection, not a big deal. You just import a CSV. And once you gain internet connection, those updates will go to RunSignup. No big deal. So you can always manually add participants as well. There's a little add button on the participants management page where you can type stuff in. You can use this quick mode button here to limit the amount of fields that are on display. Makes it faster to type in all those entries on race day. If you click settings, it allows you to configure what the fields show in quick mode and allows you to default feature fields like city or event. If you're in a small town, everybody's from the same town pretty much, 95% of them are at least, you can put that in. So that will be making things a little bit easier for you when you're doing data entry on race day. Additionally, there's a keyboard shortcuts little link here, which shows you what keyboard shortcuts are available to make typing in entries faster. And so the next thing we're going to talk about is adding a bib chip file to your race. So some chip systems are, they need a bib chip file in order to tell the system which chip goes to which participant. So it's like a Rosetta Stone. And basically it's linking the time-stamped raw reads from a decoder to a database of athletes in race day scoring who have bib numbers assigned. So my raw read may look like this. It's got time and it's got this wacky looking string ADS 3241. Now, you'll be managing, if you're using an IPECO system or another system that has transponders and not bib numbers, a CSV file of transponder code to bib number, so that instead of seeing ADS 3241, you're going to see John Smith because it's able to link to John Smith using this bib chip file. So, because we know ADS 32141 is bib number 123, and I know John Smith is bib 123, therefore John Smith is ADS 3241. So that will give us the result that we are looking for here. In race day scoring, all you got to do is go into actions and on the participant screen, actions, and set up chip auto assignment. What this does is it will apply a bib chip file to all existing and potentially existing athletes in the future for the race you're working on. So remember, as you are working on a race and race day scoring, all those new updates will come down from RunSignup automatically, and you want to make sure that all of your bibs and chips are applied correctly. So what you'll do is import the entire bib chip file, even for those who have not yet registered, so that when they do register, their chip will be applied to them correctly. So just make sure when you do this, you are always uploading an entire chip cross-reference, even for those who have not yet registered. So if you do get, all of the bibs that you have on record to show, they'll all have a chip code. So we have a guide here again on how to upload a chip assignment. We have a really helpful Timer Tip Tuesday on this one. And so go ahead and watch this and read through it if you have more questions. Okay, next, let's talk about streams and timing locations. So we're starting to get into the nitty-gritty of the structure of race day scoring now. The big thing here is we're trying to make sure that the right read is selected for each participant. How do we do that? So let's talk first about what streams are in race day scoring. Streams connect to a couple of things potentially. Either a timing hardware like a IPECO reader where you hook it up directly to your system with an Ethernet cable, middleware like MyLapse timing and scoring, which is a separate piece of software that runs alongside RaceDay scoring, or just a collection of files in a folder. Streams then gather all the chip read data from those sources and send it to RaceDay scoring to process into scored reads based on various configuration items. So each system up here, so you have ChronoTrack, Race Result, Timing and Scoring, iPico, they all do things a bit differently, and the setup is a little bit different. So what we have done is we have a whole slew of resources on how to set up different streams in RaceDay scoring. So I have how to import iPico times here, and we have a guide on what you need to do specifically for iPico in order to make sure you get all of your reads in. Similarly, if we have one for MyLapse, you want to make sure that you got your MyLapse setup done well. We have a nice little YouTube video here showing you actually how a MyLapse timer does it themselves. We had our friend Ryan come over and do a session with us showing exactly how they connect timing and scoring. So all of these different hardware providers have a different process, and you need to learn how to do that. So make sure you come here and watch any of the related videos and content that you need in order to get up to speed. So as you can see on the right, there's two main types, TCP/IP or direct and file. They both pretty much get the same thing done. Some people just like to do a file, other people like to do a direct. I don't really think there's a benefit to doing one or the other. So I usually end up doing file because it's no slower or faster, and it gets the job done, and I don't have to worry about my TCP/IP connection dropping or something and freaking out. So I like to just do file, but it's up to you. Okay, so streams and RaceDay scoring, just a general thing. You can go over on the left to streams, and this is where you'll see all of your streams. Now, obviously, I can't go into the details on streams today because there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it depending on your hardware. So go watch those videos and read those guides on your specific hardware if you have questions. Now, let's talk about timing locations. So timing locations are collections of one or many streams of read data. Most of the time, it's just a single stream going into a single timing location, but it's important to understand that that's not always the case. You can have multiple streams going to one location, and that's totally fine. So if you have like a backup stream and a main stream, you could do that. Or if you have different types, like someone just doing a manual data entry of times using a time machine or something like that, you could have more than one type of stream in one location. So the read data from those streams is then filtered based on the location type. For instance, reads at a start location are selected based on the last time seen for each read. And for finish and split locations, the reads are selected based on the first time seen. So this is the biggest thing that locations do, is they have different settings to say this is a start or this is a finish. And based on that selection, it's going to decide like how to select the best read for that location, depending on the type. So, and most importantly, timing locations are where you set up your time filters. These time filters allow you to control what range of times should be considered valid for this location. So for a start, I want to say I want everything from the beginning of time until 5 minutes after the start to be considered as a chip start. And if it's a finish or a split location, I want to say everything starting about 13 minutes into a 5K and on could be a potential finish read, but nothing before 13 minutes. I've got no one running 12-minute 5Ks here today. So you can learn more about setting up timing locations here. But those are the two main things just to keep in mind. There's the location type, and there are the time filters, and that is what filters out all of those raw reads down into what we call scored reads, which we'll talk about later. So yeah, the timing location time filters. They give you the ability, again, to filter out the raw reads. Start reads can be considered until a set time, usually a couple of minutes after the gunshot. And finish and split reads can be considered starting at a set time, usually a couple of minutes prior to your first expected participant. And so it's possible to connect a single stream to multiple locations if needed. This is nice for situations if there's like a single finish area with more than one scored event, like a 5K, 10K, commonly finishing in one spot. but you want to have time filters that are specific to the scored event using that location. So you may remember that here we have one single filter to say start collecting finish reads after this time. Well, that works really nicely if you have a single 5K, but if you have a 5K and a 10K, you might wind up with someone getting, let's say, a 16-minute 10K, which is never going to be valid. So if you needed to, you have that common finish location. You could actually create two locations, one for just the 5K, one for just the 10K, using the same stream of data, and it will only say in this location, consider the folks who are registered for the 10K, and in that location, registered folks who are in the 5K. And then you are able to set the time filters based on that scored event specifically. So that's a nice little handy hack to know. So these filtering rules combined with how timing locations select reads, the last scene read for the starts, first scene read for the finish and split, make it easy to ensure that you get the best read selected for all participants without having to worry about, one, participants walking around the finish mats with their chips on after they've already finished, and two, participants wandering over the start mats before the gunshot goes off. This is like the #1 concern new timers have. They're like, oh no, people are walking around after they've already finished and they're hitting the mat again and it's beeping and I'm freaking out. It's okay. Our software, and I'm sure every other software out there, does a similar type of thing. It's going to ignore everything after that first finish time scene for everybody, and it's going to ignore everything before the last start time scene for everyone. So these are two things you never have to worry about, and I see new timers worry about them all the time, so just some good to knows. And in here you can see the timing location setup. You have these consider start times until, consider finish and split times after. This is a common start finish setup where everything is in one location. You can do separate start finish and all sorts of other things, which you can learn about in our timing locations guides. And get to timing locations on the left, click the little pin icon, timing locations, and you'll see our default start and finish. You go into settings, you can change them, delete them, whatever you need to do, it's all in here. And add more locations if you have a split point, so on and so forth. Okay, so I may have mentioned it before, but there is this concept of raw and scored reads in RaceDay scoring. So basically, raw reads are the unfiltered data from devices, middleware files within folders that your streams, are connected to. So this is like everything coming down from your readers. You're going to get hundreds of times for a single participant, maybe, depending on your devices. And you really only want like one finish time, let's say, for someone. So you have all of these hundreds of reads and you want to filter them down to what we can call a scored read. So these raw reads can be selected to be used as a scored read depending on multiple factors. And again, we kind of talked about that. If it's a start location, the system is looking for the very last time seen within the time frame provided. And similarly, if it's a finish, it's the very first time seen within the other time range provided. Raw reads can be ignored for a number of different reasons, all listed out here. So it's not a problem if you see in RaceDay scoring, hey, I've got all these ignored reads. They're totally legitimate most of the time. #1 being, hey, this is getting filtered by a bib or time. That means your time filter is set up so that it's going to ignore this. It's before 12 minutes in a 5K finish location. We're not going to accept it. Better read selected, that's like if someone got a read after they've already finished, so on and so forth. Unknown bibber chip, we don't know who it is, and a whole bunch of other ones that I'm not going to go into detail with right now. But and then scored reads, these are created from raw reads. For each bib, the best read is selected from the raw read data collected from all streams connected to that timing location. So it's going to gather up all the reads from all of the streams, put them all together into a big list of raw data, and then pick the best one based on the location type and the segment setup and all the other things going on in the system. So again, if the timing location is the start type, we select the last scene read up until the time filter. If it's a finish or split type, we select the first scene read starting at the time filter on that location. Then these reads are used to calculate your segment times based upon your scored event and segment setup. And so I'll talk about segments a little bit. And I have some more, I have some more information here on the difference between raw and scored reads in our guides. Okay, so you can view a raw and scored reads in RaceDay scoring on the right-hand side. At the top, there's this raw reads block, and then beneath that are listed out all of the locations you have. So it could look a little bit different. You can click the numbers in RaceDay scoring, the green, anything green you can click in RaceDay scoring. So just go ahead and click that, and you'll be able to see all the details about the raw reads. You can troubleshoot and see what's going on with them. You can click the start and finish reads, the number here, to see details about all the scored reads. And you can see that, like, I've got all these raw reads, but only a smaller number of scored reads, and that's because they're getting filtered out due to the way that we've configured things. So there's more information on picking all these out and like going through raw data and seeing what's going on with it in our help docs. Okay, let's move on to scored events and segments. This is all about telling the system how to use the reads that have been selected to produce times. So we know now that you have raw data, this big giant list of times, hundreds of reads per participant. We filtered it down, we picked the best scene start and the best scene finish from all of those for each participant. Now what do we do with them? And so scored events and segments will tell the system what to actually do with those times. So first off, what are scored events? Scored events are collections of participants from one or many registration events of the same distance. Sometimes you'll need to combine multiple registration categories together, but most of the time scored events have a one-to-one relationship with registration events. So totally depends on the way that the registration was set up. On the right, is a little diagram of a common type of setup that you'll see on registration platforms, where they may have a 5K run, a 5K walk, and a 5K club pricing, but you really want to score them all together as one in one result sheet. So in this case, you would select all of those registration events to be combined into a single scored event. So you always want to combine things as much as you can in RaceDay scoring. You can always filter out different categories later, but you need to produce a single kind of main result set, and that would be your 5K and your 10K. So it's best to have a smaller number of scored events, and if you need to, you can filter out data later on. But so generally what you'll see is this, like 5K run, 5K walk, 5K club pricing, and you would just check the boxes to include all of them in one scored event. So on the left, you'll see the scored events icon here. You can just type in 5K for the name, and you would select which registration events should be included. Now, if you're doing a manually created race, you actually add the events yourself. So you probably wouldn't add club pricing if you're just building the race from scratch. This checkbox would be the only one that would make sense for it. So we do have a function here to do quick setup in the scored event list, and what that will do is it'll say, hey, for each of these registration events I have that I've seen on RunSignup, it's going to create a scored event for them and automatically include them. So if it's just like, RunSignup race, they got a 5K and a 10K, just click quick setup and it'll add 2 scored events, one for the 5K, one for the 10K. So next, each scored event has an area to select the start and finish timing locations to be used. This is going to tell the system which timing location to use to set up the entire race segment for this scored event, which is what is used to show the finish times for participants in reports. So you'll see when you're adding a scored event, there's this little area on the right here. This is extremely important. This is determining the start and finish for this event. So like I said before, you can create separate scored events for different create separate locations for different events if you want to, but you have to make sure to go back here to say, hey, this is actually going to be finishing at the 10K finish or the 5K finish. So just pay attention to this. This is what is determining your entire race segment, which is like the main time for your event. Next is the actual start time. So there is an actual start time that is set up on the scored event. And this is set manually on the scored event setup page, or it can be set from the dashboard using the start times button, or it can be set from a gunshot marker collected from your reader. So I'll just go to the next one here. So you can see on the bottom right, there's this area to say this is the actual start time. And you can click set to current time. You can type it in manually if you recorded it on a GPS device. Or, like I said, you can go ahead and learn how to do it from these other areas. We have this function on the dashboard to click set start times to start times automatically. And all this does is it just fills in this field for you based on whatever time of day your computer is at. So this is where everything goes into. And additionally, you can use a gunshot marker collected from readers, depending on your type of reader. And we have a little guide on how that all works. You have to say, I want to set up marker reads, and then the first time a gun time is seen, it's the marathon start. The second time it's the half marathon. The third time it's the 5K. And then when you get the reads in from your system, they get mapped in directly to your actual start times. So you can play around with that if you want to, if you use gunshots on your system. You can learn more about these different start time options like chip starts, corral starts, and more here. We have an overview of the interplay between scored event start times, corral start times, and chip start times. So this is a really good read if you're not sure about how the relationship works between scored event starts and corral starts, like if you had an early start and chip start times. So it's a really good read. Okay, so scoring by chip versus clock. This is obviously pretty basic concept that everyone should understand. Each scored event can be scored by chip or clock time. Chip time uses any reads seen after the actual start time. If there are no reads after the start time, then the actual start time is used, or corral start time if that's set up. Any pre-gun start time, so if this little runner got a start read, but it happened to be before the actual start of the race, that's going to be accepted, but not used for a chip time calculation because it's actually going to default back to the actual start time. Now, if you wanted to, there's an option to say, I want to always consider pre-gun start times if you want to allow people to have slower chip times than their clock time. That's kind of up to you, depending on what you're doing. Essentially, it's all you need to understand is this diagram at the bottom. Chip time is the time it takes for them to get from the start line to the finish line. Gun time or clock time, same thing, is whenever the gun time actually goes off. Doesn't matter if it takes them 5 minutes to actually get to the start, that time is included in their elapsed time. And you can set that right here in RaceDay scoring. If you selected chip time, you would have a few other options in there as well. Okay, so next, let's talk a little bit about segments. Segments are kind of putting it all together. They are what RaceDay scoring uses to calculate times and paces for participants. They use timing locations as start and end points and calculate the time it takes to go between them. So you see on the right, I've got a timing location called start, and then a timing location called finish, and an arrow in between them. The arrow is our segment that starts at the start and finishes at the finish. And basically, it's going to give a time for the time it takes to get from start to finish. And may seem straightforward, but it gets complicated when you start adding in more segments if you're doing splits and things like that. One thing to really understand is that all scored events have an inherent entire race segment. That is simply the time it takes to get from the very start to the very finish. So when you create a scored event, in the background, the system creates an entire race segment for you that you can't really change too much, and it will be the entire race. You can add additional segments using any combination of timing locations to start and finish. So you can learn a little bit more about creating segments in this guide here. We have a really great Timer Tip Tuesday on this one, and it just walks you through how to add new segments, what you need to consider when doing so, all the different settings and options that you have. But basically, all you need to understand here is a segment is the time it takes to get between two different locations. So you can go into segments right here, and you'll see I have my entire race segment. I can't change it. It always starts at start and finishes at finish, and those are set on the scored event. Remember we said that the 5K has a start and end point, and they are start and finish. Well, that gets pulled in over here, and you can't change it. If you want to change it, you would go over to the scored event setup and say, hey, now the 5K is going to finish at my split point or something, and that will update this endpoint info. So you do have the ability to say what endpoint occurrence to use. So if it's a 2-lap, like a 5K is 1 lap and the 10K is 2 laps, you would say, I want the second occurrence to finish for the 10K. And that will, instead of saying, just the time it takes to get from the first time they hit the start to the first time they hit the finish, it's going to say, okay, give me the time it takes to get from the start to the second time they hit the finish. So that's really important to understand as well. All right, so next let's talk a little bit about age groups and top finishers. This is all about putting together your awards categories. So age groups are a breakdown of participants within a scored event based on their gender and age. RaceDay scoring generates a default age group report for each scored event that has age groups set up. For example, a 23-year-old male may fall into either the male 20 to 25 band or the male 20 to 29 band based on how the race organizer has decided to award their participants. Top finisher categories are a way to give awards to a top group of participants. Most common to see are a top 3 overall male-female and a top masters male-female. That's the usual setup. So these are generally not given age group awards, and they are reserved at the top of the list. And you can also do more complicated things like setting up custom top finisher categories based on question responses. And you can always go in here and click these links and see more details on setting up age groups and top finishers. This is the basic overall and masters setup. So you can also do things, like I said, like set up custom top finisher categories. If you have a RunSignup custom question, you may want to do like a Clydesdale category, where it says what category are you in their custom question, and this is going to say everybody who responded Clydesdale to this custom question is in this new Clydesdale band that I have set up. And we also have more information on setting up age groups here. So we have guides on adding ranges of age groups, copying, deleting, and so on and so forth. So we give you this nice little guide here on how to do this, setting up 10-year age ranges, all tells you how this works. It's pretty straightforward once you try it out for the first time. Okay, so in RaceDay scoring, there's a little trophy icon for age groups, and just click set top finishers, or clicking range insert to add age groups is the most common thing. You can individually insert, delete, but I usually end up just doing the range insert and single insert. Play around with it and see how you like to use it. But this is the range of age groups screen. You can say I want to add 10-year age bands for males and females. And you'll see on the right here, it will give you a preview of what's going to be added once you click Add Ranges. And the top finisher category screen, which I kind of showed already. And next, we're going to talk about reports. So viewing, printing, customizing result reports. Obviously, as a timer, you have to make sure you're able to produce results in a timely manner. This is reporting, and it's all about that. So let's get going. Reports can be created for each scored event, and they can have one or many report sections within them. They have a great deal of potential customization. So reporting is one of the more complicated features of RaceDay scoring. We try and make it simple enough by building out default reports, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what you should know is that you have a lot of flexibility with reporting in RaceDay scoring. We try and make it simple, but you can go ahead and customize things as much as you want here. The biggest thing to understand is that scored events can have different types of report sections available to them based on their setup. For instance, if you added a report for a scored event that didn't have age groups, you wouldn't be able to add age group report types. So that would be like if you come in and you clicked build a report and you clicked to add a report section to that new report, you wouldn't be able to select age groups because you don't have any for that scored event. Similarly, if you set up team scoring for a score, or if you didn't set up team scoring for a scored event, you wouldn't be able to create a team summary report section for that report. So it's just important to understand here, there's a difference between reports and report sections. Reports can have multiple sections within them. If you wanted to say, show the overall top 10, and then you wanted to show all of the age groups or something like that, you could build a custom report to do that. Now, default reports, those are what I was talking about before. They're created for you automatically when saving different parts of the application. So when you save scored events, this creates a report called, scored event name, overall report. Like you see on the right, I have 10K overall report because I have a scored event called 10K. Age groups get created when you, save the age group page, and it's gonna be called scored event name age group report. So on the right, I have 10K age group report. So that gets just prepackaged and built for you automatically. Now, you can go and change it and update it and move columns around and retitle it and do whatever you want with it, but it's just trying to get you started. So it's good to know that this is happening, but it's also good to understand that you can customize them and delete them and do whatever you want. They're just getting built for you as a convenience. So you can learn more about report building here. We have a ton of guides on report building because it's a pretty complicated subject. You can do a whole lot with it. You can, obviously just learn how to build a report. That's pretty straightforward, and then it will tell you more about what you can do. You can move report sections around, you can save, you can view the report afterwards. You can edit report sections within a report. So if you wanted to, you can come in and click edit and then change the report section title. You can change the order of the columns. You can remove columns. You can add fields. You can do pretty much whatever you want. So there's a whole lot of info here on this, and feel free to dive into it and play around. You could spend a lot of time on reporting. So to access reports, pretty straightforward. Just on the left, go down to the reports area, and you'll be able to view reports just by clicking the report name, and you'll get your list of results. So this is my 10K, and it's sorted by, I'm not sure if this one was sorted by chip or clock, but it lists both clock and chip, and I can go in and update that if I wanted to by clicking actions and edit. And I'll see my report section called 10K overall. It's a single report section report, just my overall, all my 10K runners in a row. And I can edit the columns, I can delete them, I can update the names of the columns. I can add different columns if I wanted to add like age grade, or if I wanted to add team name or anything else, I could just go and search for a field and add it in right here. This filtering area is more of an advanced function. It's useful if you wanted to create a custom report. Say you wanted to list out all of the 10K runners who are in Moorestown, New Jersey, or from Moorestown, New Jersey. You could create a scoring filter to say, only include those who have Moorestown in their city name. So you can do fun stuff like that. Building reports, just in the top right of the reports area, click Build Report, add the title, select what events you're going to be adding a report section for. Select what columns to include. The default column set is like your standard, what you see over here. Place, bib, name, sex, gender, place, age, place, city, state, clock time, chip time, and pace. We just picked those because they seemed pretty good, but if you wanted to change it, you can go ahead and create a different set of columns to include by default. And then just select the type of report section you're going to add. So you could add an overall section, an age group section, and a pre-race list. So these are currently the different report section types that are available to you. If it had teams enabled, you might see team summary. If it had other things enabled, you might see different options here. But so right now I could add an overall section, and then I could add an age group section, and then I could add a pre-race list if I wanted to. Or you could just add one, save it, build a new report, and have a single report for each of these. Totally up to you. And finally, we're going to talk about auto-saving reports to RunSignup. So this is how you actually publish results to RunSignup. In RaceDay scoring, you'll see that there are these auto-save settings options next to some reports. So you only need to auto-save like the 10K overall report and the 5K overall report in order to publish results for them. You don't need to publish age groups because those get done automatically for you at RunSignup, so you don't have to worry about that. You'll see that there's an autosave setting next to any reports that are available for publishing, essentially. So all you need to do is click autosave settings, and you'd click the little plus button on the RunSignup results section, and then just fill out the form, click add stream, save settings, and then these will automatically start publishing to RunSignup, and you'll see in the top toolbar an autosaves light that is green when it's running, red when it's not. You just click it to start and click it to stop. So we have a guide on this as well, obviously. So you can go ahead and read through this one, just some notes on all of these different fields, what they do, how you can pause and resume all of your autosaves. But it's just good to know. A lot of new timers with RaceDay scoring, they think, hey, when are my results going to show? Or I'm worried about testing because I don't want the results to go to RunSignup. Nothing happens until you do this. So you have to go in here and actually set this up in order for things to start going to RunSignup. So number one, don't worry about pushing results early. Unless you said, I want to start saving results, it's not going to go up there and do anything. And obviously, if you do want that to happen, you have to go and set it up. You can set this up in advance, and it's all included in the race file if you export it and import it to another computer. So finally, we've gone through a lot today. Biggest thing to know about RaceDay scoring is that you have really easy access to assistance. And this is all about what to do when you don't know what to do. In the top right, there's a little icon to get help. If you're working on a race file and you click that, you can actually submit this file for review. And this will just package up and send us the race you're working on in the state that it was when you clicked the button. So we'll get a copy of that race at the moment you clicked send. So if you're working on something and you're not sure what to do, or if you're not sure if you're doing it right or wrong, we're more than happy to assist you. We get back to you really fast on these. Just go ahead, click get help, and fill out the form and describe the issue, click send, and we'll be able to respond to you pretty shortly. So we also have a link in here to view the help guides, which I've been talking about all day. But also at the bottom, there is a couple of buttons to book training sessions with Crisp. So Crisp is our RaceDay expert who does one-on-one training for RaceDay scoring. And the best usage of that time is to bring a specific question you have, or if you have an existing race that you want to learn how to rescore in RaceDay scoring that you did last year maybe, or if you have some really pointed questions that you wanted to touch base on with someone, you can go ahead and book one of those sessions. And I think that is everything for today. That's all we have. If you have any more questions on RaceDay scoring, feel free to reach out. Our email is raceday@runsignup.com for any of the RaceDay scoring questions. Other than that, we are going to be back here next Tuesday for a RaceDay scoring certification class. That's going to be a longer session, 2 hours. We're going to be doing classroom work, so you guys will be having an assignment to do with a quiz to sign off at the end. And this video is required watching for it. So if you know anyone who is coming and didn't attend today, get them the link for this video when we have it released for you. We're not going to take any specific questions today. If you do have those, feel free to shoot them over to us, and we'll get you started with your training on RaceDay scoring. All right. Thanks, everyone, and I hope you have a great day.